record on this computer. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Friends Becoming Neighbors. My name is Robin Shatskin, and we are here to get to know each other and to talk about what's going on in our lives. I'm so excited to see so many people here this evening. We're going to start. We have a special guest. Brett Lascara from the Honeycut Group is going to talk to us about insurance, one of those things that we know that we desperately need for a whole new community in a brand new house, but don't know where to start thinking about what to do. So I'm going to hand this over to Brett, and he's going to give a little talk and then open everything up for questions.
All right, thanks a lot. I see a lot of familiar names here. I've definitely worked with a lot of y'all throughout construction, or maybe once y'all have got into the house. I'm with the Honeycut Group. We're an independent agency here in Wilmington, North Carolina. We focus on coastal insurance risks. So, y'all as the consumer, you've got two different options to shop for your insurance. Your first option would be to go to a captive company. Captive companies such as USAA, Farm Bureau. The number is becoming less and less, but a captive carrier, they can only write their own product. So, if you contact USAA, they're not going to be able to shop outside of their own USAA product. Us as an independent agency, I'm able to shop, with around 20 plus different insurance companies. Most of the insurance companies that I write with are not marketing on TV. We don't see their relentless commercials. We don't see their relentless ads because they're mainly marketing to us agents. And we're basically, able to use their product and sell it to the consumer. And I have nothing, opposed with those captive companies that I'm talking about. It's just that, where we are geographically, those companies are not quite aligned with the threat of wind related specifically problems that we face here in coastal North Carolina. So, a little bit about the geography specifically of your community. Believe it or not, y'all are a third tier inland from the highest tier of insurance rates. So, Brunswick County in general, you've got your Oak Islands, Holden Beach, Ocean Isle Beach. Up here in the Wilmington area, we've got Wrightsville Beach. Those are going to be the closest to the coast, and therefore the highest rated territory for insurance rates. And then we've got Wilmington, Southport, Hampstead, more of the heavily populated areas, which are usually between 3 and 10 miles from the coast. They're going to be in that next territory. And then Leland, Castle Hayne, Rocky Point, kind of that, I think around 10 plus miles from the coast is where y'all sit. And therefore, typically your rates are much cheaper than those in Southport and Wilmington area. So you do have a nice leg up when it comes to your geographic area. But if you're coming from inland areas or northern states, insurance is still going to be a much higher cost than what you're probably used to. And so, the main things that a homeowner's insurance policy is going to cover you from would be things like fire, wind, hail, lightning, theft, broken water pipes. Those are probably the most common things that we see. But an insurance policy in North Carolina is actually what's called open peril. And so that means that you are covered for anything unless it says that it's specifically excluded. So a lot of the misconception with a lot of people that move from maybe Raleigh or Charlotte or just inland areas is that their policy in those areas did not include wind and hail. But in fact, it did. They don't see an exclusion on their policy, so they may not know. And companies that I listed earlier, like USAA and Farm Bureau, they're typically going to put a wind and hail exclusion on that policy. So if you go to companies like that, they're typically going to be able to still write you your typical coverages like fire, lightning, etc. But they will put a wind and hail exclusion on it, and then they'll go grab the wind and hail through the North Carolina. Basically, the Department of Insurance offers a specific plan for wind and hail only. In the last 7 years, that has been a much pricier way to purchase insurance in these areas. As the market gets a little bit tougher, which I'll kind of end on some of the challenges that we're seeing in the market, that has become a more common way to do things. But for new construction homes, the market is still fairly healthy. So, every insurance company is going to want to insure a brand new home because, you've got the latest code, you've got plumbing materials that are not dated and corroding, you've got electrical wiring that's, hopefully been installed properly and hasn't over time disconnected. So, if there's anything that the insurance industry as a whole does like, it's new construction. And so, you're obviously in that ballpark. And so, for that reason, as well as your geographic area, y'all will see some of the lowest rates, apples to apples, compared to most everybody else in Brunswick County. Um, and so some of the other things that the homeowner's policy covers beyond just the structure of the home would be any detached structures that you might have. In North Carolina, that number is going to default to 10% of whatever the replacement cost of the house is. A lot of people may not need 10% if you don't have any sheds, barns, fences, pools, etc. And so a lot of times when you get a quote and you're saying, hey, I don't need $60,000 worth of other structures coverage. Well, you're going to get it and it doesn't cost you anything. So, you'll have that in case you need it in the future. The next thing would be covering personal property. So all of your belongings in the house, your clothes, your furniture, your TVs, etc. And that's obviously a hard number to come up with unless you go and inventory your whole house. And so North Carolina makes it fairly easy, and that the default for that number is going to be 50% of the replacement cost of your house. So for a $600,000 house, most companies are going to give you an automatic $300,000 worth of personal property. Oftentimes we can go up. It's harder for us to scale that number down because I think the insurance companies just kind of want to not leave it up to chance and say, hey, 150,000 is enough, but then you have a claim and it actually was 200,000. So they typically estimate that number a little bit high. And what I recommend for that number and just that coverage in general is that maybe every year, especially when it comes to hurricane season, you just get your phone out, walk around your house, kind of videotaping, all of that you see. And that way, if there ever is a claim, or if there ever is a dispute, whether or not you may have, had that or not, you have the video evidence of it. Insurance companies are usually very fair, especially, if you have a fire or a total loss. They're not going to make you go through and, write down everything that you had. They're going to, be reasonable and get you a settlement that's within the, the policy that you have. But that's just a tip that, we typically tell people is, instead of writing down an inventory of your personal property, it may be good come hurricane season to just kind of, take your phone and walk through the house and get an idea of what you have, in case there ever is, a bad claim. And then the fourth biggest thing that a policy covers automatically is loss of use coverage. And so, if there is that claim, you can't live in your house anymore, you've got to go find comparable living conditions. And that number typically defaults to 20% of the replacement cost of the house. So you're going to have, for a $600,000 house, potentially up to $120,000 to go rent a house, while your house is being rebuilt. Maybe you need to go stay in a hotel for a couple of days while you're just dealing with a small claim. But the goal is to have comparable living conditions to what you have right now. So, oftentimes that means that you can go rent a comfortable, house that's similar square footage, so that you're not displaced, and can continue to live the way that you were, before the loss happened. And then the last thing, kind of major thing that a policy covers is liability. So, if y'all are having people over or something happens and somebody gets injured on the property and sues you, typically we suggest around at least $500,000 worth of coverage for that potential lawsuit. And, the insurance company helps not only pay for the injuries sustained, but also the defense costs is, for the lawsuit. And that's kind of the thing that I, recommend the most. The cost difference typically between 300,000 and 500,000 in liability on your homeowner's policy is $4 a year. So, why would you not go for 500,000? We hopefully don't typically see claims that high for the liability, and that's why it's such a cheap option. But for an extra $4 a year, you get $200,000 worth of more coverage. And so, our agency and probably, most others in town, they typically default that number to 500,000. And, that's something that you guys should definitely be doing. And so it's kind of a basic breakdown of the main guts of the homeowners insurance policy. There are a few things that have some limitations or exclusions that I'll go through. And like I mentioned, everything is covered unless it says that it's not covered. And so the biggest thing that your homeowner's insurance policy does not cover is flood damage. So flood is going to be rising water from the ground up. That's usually going to happen either due to rainfall accumulation. So if we get, 10 inches in a 10-hour span, and that water simply has nowhere else to go, that's going to be one situation, rising water from the ground up. Or it could be overflow of a body of water. Obviously, the river is closest to y'all. I know that it's called the Bluffs, and that typically means that it sits higher. There are very few, if any, home sites that I could see that are in any type of required flood zone. So nobody's ever going to be required to have it at this time in your community. But, it is something to consider. I think the feedback that everybody gives, real estate agents, builder, just community members, is that, the community is pretty high, and so it's not necessarily needed. And that may be true. But my suggestion, regardless of whether or not you're 100 feet in the air or, underground, is to carry the flood insurance policy for the first 2 years, because you don't know what, the dirt that they're moving at your neighbor's house is maybe being displaced on yours, and vice versa. And since it's a new community, nobody has any knowledge of whether or not it's capable of flooding. If any of y'all saw what the Cape Fear River did much further north and inland of y'all after Hurricane Florence, you know that it's very capable of doing significant damage up in the Wallace area, Rocky Point. Unfortunately, we had many houses that were completely engulfed in water, and these houses were on pilings, and they still, had tremendous damage. Y'all's best friend there is that the river is much wider, versus it just gets much more narrow up in those areas. But flood insurance is not covered under the homeowner's insurance policy. And then luckily, I don't think we have to worry about it, but from a natural disaster standpoint, earthquake is technically also not covered under a homeowner's insurance policy. Most companies offer earthquake riders. They're not tremendously expensive, but they can range around $300 to $700 a year. I don't think, North Carolina coastal has had any threats with earthquakes, so I won't spend too much time on that. And to be quite honest, we really do not hardly write any in North Carolina. We write, some in South Carolina, but hopefully we don't have to worry about that. And then another limitation on policies here in North Carolina is jewelry. So the homeowner's policy only covers $1,500 worth of jewelry, watches, and furs. So, I mentioned earlier you have $300,000 worth of personal property coverage. Well, there's an additional sublimit on that $1,500 is the maximum. So, in order to properly cover that jewelry, a lot of companies offer a rider that will schedule that jewelry out, that eliminates the deductible, and we insure it to, its value. Oftentimes when you're calling an insurance agent to get a quote, that conversation doesn't really happen because you're more concerned about getting the policy to close on your house. And that's fine. We typically may not suggest it, or if it doesn't come up in conversation on that first phone call, normally that first phone call that we have with people is to get them a quote, and maybe if it goes from there. But it's something to consider for anybody that has, jewelry, especially more than $1,500. Typically, I suggest anything over 5,000 if it's worth it to you to schedule, whether it be on your homeowner's policy, or you can buy a separate policy strictly for jewelry, and that also goes for watches, and furs, and just really any high value or impossible to replace item. So you might have some artwork that was done, and you can't really put a price tag on the artwork because it was done by somebody who is not living, and so those hard to replace items are other things to kind of consider, possibly talking to your agent about what kind of coverage you can put on those, to have them fully covered. And then some people may, decide that they don't really want to spend that extra money. I don't really wear that ring, that jewelry much anyways. I'm going to keep it in a fire safety box or whatever, and save the money. But it's typically pretty inexpensive to cover jewelry and things like that. Usually about a dollar per 100 rate. So a $5,000 watch would typically cost around $50 per year to insure. And so, that's one thing that just doesn't really get talked about a whole lot when you're having a conversation about homeowners insurance, and it's definitely something to consider. Um, and then some of the discounts that you might be eligible for. Um, you know, it's not necessarily discount, but some of the things I mentioned earlier about the location and the age of the house, those are the two biggest factors for insurance rates. Um, Gated community is something that y'all are already getting or need to discuss with your agent. I think that it's gated but not guarded. There is a discount for gated with most companies. It's not tremendous, but it's you get it no matter what, since it's gated there. Um, and then a lot of companies offer an age related discount. The idea behind that is, retirees are more likely to be home during the day. So a lot of companies give 55, 60 years and older discounts. You typically don't need to discuss that with your agent. It comes up no matter what in the conversation. But it may be worth, just glancing at the quote to make sure that they properly gave it. Or your spouse may be of age, but you're not, and they ran the quote in the spouse's name instead of yours, and so they aren't giving the discount when they could be. So typically, it's only one of the two. Some companies make it both of you, um, but that's something just to be on the lookout for. And then fire and burglar protection is another discount that most all companies offer. Um, the discounts for those things like CPI, ADT, are much less than kind of what they used to give a discount for. And I think that's probably brought on by self-monitoring companies like Ring and things like that. But typically, if you either have a local alarm, which means that it's not linked to the monitoring company, there's still a small discount for local alarms. So that could be just, when you walk in the door, you punch in your code and the alarm goes off. Um, Versus the monitoring, when that alarm goes off and you don't punch the code in, that company's notified right away, and they typically reach out to you, say, hey, is everything okay? That's where you get more of a discount for having them monitored. It does not pay for the monitoring service. I think most of those have a monthly subscription. But if you already plan to have that peace of mind and monitoring, then you should definitely talk to that with your insurance agent, because there's going to be a discount for that. Um, and then the last biggest discount that we typically give is if you bundle your home and your auto with us, and everybody knows the term bundling. But as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the companies that independent agents like me do business with, that company that I'm quoting you with does not write auto insurance. So how do they give me a bundling discount if they're not offering auto? Well, as an agent, that homeowner's company will give you a discount if you're writing your auto with my agency. And the thought behind that is just that, it's a stickier account if you have your home and auto with one agent. So oftentimes both the home and the auto company, although it's not a true bundle, they will give a discount if you write it with the same agent. Um, so a lot of you're coming down here and you think, okay, I've had USAA forever. I'm gonna just call them and they're gonna get me home and auto. And then you get the homeowner's quote from them, and they're whoa, that's crazy. But you keep your auto with them, and that's fine. But you may look into discussing with your agent what options that they have. And so we have, I believe, 5 companies that are writing auto insurance now in North Carolina. It's a much lower number compared to our options for homeowners insurance. Again, those companies are typically not the companies that you're familiar with, more so. We do write with Progressive, we do write with Travelers, we do write with Liberty Mutual. But a company called National General is probably our largest auto insurance company. And fortunately, that is not the same thing as the General. If anybody's familiar with those commercials with Shaquille O'Neal, the guy with the hat, the military guy with the hat, that looked very, very corny and not safe. That is not the same company as National General. National General is owned by Allstate, and I believe that they're probably the 4th largest auto insurance carrier in North Carolina. So, reputation is important when you're shopping these companies, because you probably haven't heard of a lot of them. And so, that's our job as the agency to vet these companies and, make sure that we're staying on top of hindrances in the markets, as well as, possible challenges that companies may be having. And I'll touch, on that in a second once I finish kind of with some of the car insurance things. In North Carolina, a car insurance policy minimum is going to be $30,000 per person and $60,000 per accident. So if I'm driving and I run into somebody and I injure them, I have to carry at least $30,000 worth of damage to that person. And if there's multiple people in that vehicle, $60,000 worth of injuries to them. And we all know that, $30,000 is not going to go very far. So those are the state minimum limits. We highly suggest that you get at least $250,000 per person and $500,000 per accident. And similar to the home insurance difference between $300,000 and $500,000 of liability, the difference between those state minimums and, $250,000 and $500,000 is typically, maybe a couple $100 a year. So the suggested route when y'all are needing auto insurance, is to kind of just get as much coverage as you possibly can for car insurance. I think that's much more important from a liability standpoint than a homeowner's policy covers, trip and fall, because accidents happen and, you don't always have control over it. So, those state minimum limits that I mentioned earlier, just don't even consider them. Go for as high as you can, which is typically $250,000 per person, $500,000 per accident. And the other big point to mention that's just something that nobody ever knows, and if I wasn't in the insurance industry, I wouldn't know this either, but this is extremely important, and there's a lot of agents that don't necessarily know this. If you sell your car and you ask your agent to cancel the insurance on that vehicle, you must return your plates to the North Carolina DMV before you remove that vehicle. So if you're going to trade your vehicle in, the dealership will handle all that trade in. So there's nothing to worry about. Same day, just call your agent, give them the new VIN, and they'll trade in, and there's no problems. But if you maybe sell your vehicle to, a child, or sell it in the private market, which happens a lot. I get calls all the time, say, hey, I sold my vehicle to my son. He lives in California and I want to cancel the insurance on my vehicle. A lot of agents will just, okay, perfect, I'll take it off. But if you do that before you turn your tags into the DMV, you will be fined $50, and you possibly could have your license revoked, if your driver's license revoked, if it goes on for too long. So, one of the biggest things that educationally, that everybody needs to be aware of is that you cannot cancel your liability insurance until you turn your tag in to the DMV. And typically you can either mail it to Raleigh or go to your local DMV. So before you give your son, the vehicle, you're going to want to make sure that you take the tag off and turn that in, because as soon as that next day, the insurance or the DMV is going to get notified that there's no longer liability insurance on a registered vehicle of North Carolina, and you're going to get a nasty letter in the mail. So, that's something that a lot of agents that maybe don't discuss, and a lot of things that people just aren't aware of, is when you're selling your car privately. And so the last thing real quick, before I get into the challenges, is umbrella policies. So again, I'm a big proponent of having the proper liability coverages because they're cheap. Umbrella policy is, probably not fully understood by everyone. It has nothing to do with your house burning down. It has nothing to do with hurricanes. It has nothing to do with any of that. It is strictly for liability. So, like I mentioned, your homeowner's policy is going to have $500,000 worth of coverage for injuries, and then your car insurance is going to have, hopefully 250,000 per person, 500,000 per accident. A typical umbrella policy is $1 million, and that goes over those numbers. So let's say that, I'm driving my car and I hit you, and you have $1.5 million worth of medical damages between you and somebody else in your vehicle. Well, my policy only covers 500,000. So, what am I going to do with that extra $1 million? An umbrella policy typically, can be as low as $175 a year to give you an additional $1 million worth of coverage. And that umbrella policy goes over your home, it goes over your vehicles. If you own motorcycles or boats or, jet skis, golf carts, other residences in other states, you can put that umbrella policy over top of all of that. So once you use all of the coverage on your underlying policy, your umbrella policy kicks in for that additional million, 2 million, whatever you want it to be. And $175 to get $1 million worth of more coverage is just a no-brainer. So, home, auto, and then just stick an umbrella over it just because it's cheap. I'll finish up before I answer any questions, with some of the challenges that we're seeing in the industry. And that kind of goes back to the geography of where we are. So, in the last 10 to 15 years, most of those captive agencies that I mentioned earlier, the USAAs, the state farms, they used to write policies in this area that included wind and hail. Over the years, they looked at their bottom line and they realized that it's not profitable. So they decided to start pulling away from the coast. And that's where an independent agent was all of a sudden the only option for you to buy insurance, 5 and 6 years ago. We are now also, losing companies left and right due to their desire to no longer write business in these coastal areas. So, what does that mean as that market shrinks? Is that the other players that are still willing to be in the market are going to have to start taking rate, because, if they look at a map and they say, hey, normally we like to insure one house here, one house here, one house here, but all of these companies left the market. And so now we're writing all of these policies here. If we have a big catastrophic event, we're going to be in trouble. So the biggest problem that we've seen over the last few years is rate increases due to lack of availability. Um, and that goes back to legislation and politics, unfortunately. These companies can kind of come in and leave as they please, and especially so in Florida. And so independent agents like us and hopefully consumers like y'all, we need to kind of fight against the ability of these insurance companies to come and go as they please, because it's limiting the options. And at some point, there's only going to be a handful of options available to insure your house, and that means you're going to be paying a much higher rate. So what we can all do is just be educated on the industry, and hopefully get people in Congress that are going to crack down, or at some point talk to these insurance companies and maybe penalize them for coming and going as they please. And we can't blame the insurance companies for wanting to do that. If they're looking at their bottom line and they're not profitable and they're trying to avoid a solvency problem, they need to get out. But there's ways to grow that pot outside of simply charging taxpayer dollars, because ultimately, if those companies do go out of business and you're sitting there with an open claim, with an admitted North Carolina carrier, you're going to be fine. You're going to get up to $500,000 worth of coverage through the guarantee fund. But guess who's paying for all of that? It's basically, you're going to see a higher tax bill next year because all of us are paying for this insurance company who just decided that that they weren't going to write here, or they didn't decide and it was too late. And then obviously inflation is another reason that rates are so high, is because it used to cost $6,000 to replace your roof. Now it's costing $12,000 to replace your roof. So we are navigating hard the year-to-year increases or non-renewals that we're seeing. I personally have 4 people on my team who strictly are looking at renewals about 60 days in advance. Hey, we know that this policy is going up. We know we might have a better option. Let's reach out to the customer. And so that's the biggest thing that an independent agent in this area has access to is other options. And I'd be lying if I told you that the company that you're with this year is going to be the same company that you're with next year, no matter what. It's just not possible in this current insurance climate that we're in. And we're all thankful that we're able to buy insurance, because in Florida it's becoming nearly impossible. Luckily, North Carolina does have some safeguards against that. But as the consumer and as the agency, we all need to be pressing for proper legislation to avoid some of these issues that we've been seeing over the years with companies. And so that was a lot of information, I know. And I hope that people reach out to me directly if they have specific questions that they don't want to ask here, or just any time throughout the year. But if anybody has any specific questions right now, I'd be happy to answer them.
Brett, thank you. Thank you. And I know I'm going to open it up for questions. 2 things. Number one, could you just give everybody your phone number? I know I sent it in the email, but just in case people want it right now, just say it, because it'll be on the recording and in the everything else, but just your phone number.
Yeah, the easiest way would be 910-338-1773, and then extension 2.
And then I'll make sure in the email to you guys, I'll put his email and information as well. But and I'm going to open it up for questions. I just have one quick question. What happens if you have vanity plates on your car?
So I believe that you can simply go to the DMV and say that you want to keep them, and they surrender the more or less you surrender it still, but you get to keep the plate.
Okay. Okay. So let's open it up. People have questions?
I do.
Go ahead.
Okay. I know that umbrella policy, you're talking about golf carts.
Mhm.
Is there anything else? If it's street legal, does it have to have a license plate if we stay in the gated community?
Mhm.
And is there any other insurance that we need for a golf cart?
Yeah, so great question, and that does come up a lot, especially in communities like this. So um, there is nothing automatic in your homeowner's insurance policy that would cover any damage to that golf cart. So if it's struck by lightning, if it's stolen, if it's flooded, if it's in a wind event, there's nothing on your homeowner's insurance policy that would cover that. But your homeowner's insurance policy would cover if you were driving your car and damaged somebody else's belongings, somebody's home, or bodily injury up to your policy limits for liability, assuming that cart is 4 seats or less and goes 20 miles an hour or less, and is used within the community. So you do have liability coverage given, those important details. But we typically suggest to leave chance, out the door. We typically write golf carts similar to a homeowner or similar to a car insurance policy, and just have it on its own policy. That way it also covers physical damage to that cart and liability. And that way, we write that typically with Progressive or National General, some of the same companies that we use for car insurance, and it basically acts like exactly like a car insurance policy. So I typically, if it's just a beat up car that you don't really care about the physical damage, if it's a couple $100, $1,000 cart or whatever, and you just don't care about it, it may be fine. You have it covered for liability, and that's fine. But golf carts these days are a couple $1,000s typically, and if you're talking street legal, they might go more than that, that speed that I mentioned. But I think to answer your question, I believe that if it's a street legal golf cart, you do have to have it registered with the DMV. But I don't think that's required in your community if you don't want it to be, quote, street legal.
Now with the speed is less than 20. It's just
Mhm,
that it's got turn signals, it's got the
okay.
solid glass windshield
Yeah.
instead of plexiglass, so those type of things.
Yeah, yeah. And so, from an insurance standpoint, having physical damage, full coverage on that card is probably a good idea. And so, a couple $100s a year is typically what a golf cart policy is. And that would be full coverage other than just liability. But it's just a golf cart, that you don't really care about, then as long as it meets those requirements, then, just let it ride under your homeowner's insurance policy, because that is automatically already covered.
Okay, thank you.
I guess I have a brief question. Can I wait before I bundle in my car insurance with the homeowner's insurance here? Is that
Yeah.
something that's
Yeah, so
simple to do?
oftentimes you're not ready for your car insurance when you first move down here. Usually you have, I think the DMV says 60 days before you are required to get your registrations and whatnot for your cars. And because most other states operate similar, where you can't cancel your liability insurance until you forfeit those plates, you don't want to get your car insurance policy on day one when you move in. You
Okay.
want to move in, you'll still be covered under your policy in a different state. But within that, 30 to 60-day window, once you kind of get settled, is when I typically recommend that you, start shopping for your car insurance. And we just simply add that bundling discount on midterm onto the policy. So yeah, that typically is not timed up exactly, especially when you're moving from a different state.
Good, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for Brett right now? If not, you can go, give it's and Brett, thank you so much. I'm sure that everybody's thinking about all of these things. Insurance is a big deal for all of us, and so appreciate your being here with us tonight. And I'm sure everybody who is going to be watching this, you're going to be getting other phone calls and whatever. Just real quick.
I know it's sorry. I know I was gonna say, I know it's a bore to listen to, what it covers. The best thing to do is just to reach out to a knowledgeable agent and discuss your unique needs, because that I gave you is just the high view of things, but everybody's got different. And so when I talk to people, my questions change based off of the last question, and so it's hard to present something that is just generalities. Everybody's going to have unique.
The last question that I have is about the time frame. So when does somebody need to contact you based upon, within how long before a potential close? Sometimes we don't know when we're taking, so what is the scheduling or the timeline?
So, the ultimate answer is there's never a too early time, but typically we like to say 30 to 60 days before, whether it's a certificate of occupancy or a new closing or whatever, you're doing. Most of my quotes are good for 30 to 50, maybe sometimes 60 days. So I typically recommend between 30 and 60 days out of that completion is when you'll want to start shopping your insurance. And then we can pull the trigger well before the actual date. So we can lock in on January 1st to be effective on February 1st. So you'll really want to have it locked in and bound. I typically say, a minimum of 10 days before your move-in date. And I know that that's a moving target. And typically I can change dates. So I say, hey, do you think you'll get it next Friday, the certificate of occupancy? Yeah, I think I'm going to get it Friday. And not to joke with, I've experienced a lot of things that y'all are going through in that community and many others. It's probably not going to hit that Friday like you want it to. So just call me on Friday, say, hey, it's actually going to be, next week. And I can typically change that. Or if you forget to tell me, it's fine. You had insurance for 7 days that you didn't need. It's better than not having it at all.
Okay, awesome. All right.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
If I could. Sure. So I'm coming from New Jersey, and we have we deal with agents, right? But it's usually like a State Farm agent, an Allstate agent, NJM agent, whatever. But they don't deal with multiple insurance companies as you described. And what we found is that every year you go through the normal rate increases. So with State Farm or Farmers, and all right, next year it's 1% higher, then it's 1.5%, whatever it is. It just year after year creeps up.
Yep.
And what we've had found, and what we've had to do is every 4, 5, or 6 years, we switch companies, because you come back into that new customer rate, which is significantly lower than those incremental increases. And you call them up and they won't bring it back down. So we say, okay, so we leave, and you go to a new agent, new company, and again, single companies, and they'll start you back at that low rate, and you creep up again. By what you're describing, that you farm out to multiple insurance companies, are you constantly looking and evaluating what company we're with, and are they still giving us the best rate, or is there another company that we switch to that would give us a better, more favorable rate?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that's the worst part about my job is that it's just like a cable company. Here's a great rate with this company, and then next year, oh my gosh, it's gone up $1,000. And I hate that as the consumer, and it just, unfortunately, it's the way of the business. It's not your fault. It's not my fault. It's nothing that you did wrong. It's not that you filed a claim. But yeah, so as an independent agent, my team specifically in my agency is probably more unique in that we have the manpower to requote and reshop. So we know the trends. We know that, hey, we sold you this company this year. It was phenomenal. We wrote it hard. And we got everybody insured with them. But guess what? They just took, we know it's coming. They just took a 65% rate increase. So, my guys are really good at mapping all of it out 60 days in advance. And most of the time we reach out to you before you even know about the renewal. But, it's by far the worst part of the industry is having to play that game. And because it's a game, and it's not the new discount like you mentioned, as much as this company was offering the best rates, so everybody went and got their insurance with this company. This company said, oh gosh, we're overexposed, we've got to do something about our rates. And so there's not really any malice behind it, but because their rates were so low compared to the market average, they have to do something about that. And so unfortunately, we're chasing down the next company who's offering that, below average rate. And so, yeah, over 10 years, you typically will creep to that average market rate. And what a lot of people don't understand is that you are paying below that market rate for 10 years. And I know that as the consumer, it doesn't matter what the market rate is. I'm paying more than I was last year. And I totally get that. And I wish that there was a way around it, because I don't like to have those conversations at all. But that's just kind of the nature of the industry, and something that goes back to my my concerns and my desires for proper legislation to prevent that big increase, so that you can be stable and you don't have to worry about it. But to in order to be paying the best rates year to year, unfortunately, you do have to shop. That's where we can shop for you. And I'll tell you if I think that you can get a better rate with not using me. Right now, State Farm is offering phenomenal rates in Leland. Not for everybody. I don't have access to State Farm. Historically, they have not been competitive. But if you send me, hey, State Farm beats you by $200, I say, hey, call me next year. And that's just, that's the way it is. I know that, it's all going to come around, but if we, obviously, we're in the business to make money. So if we can shop your rate and keep you as a customer, by getting you a better price, that's better than losing you to the next guy. So, it is the unfortunate part of the business, but I feel like we navigate it well, so that here's an email. Hey, we noticed that your rate went up by this amount. We shopped it and found you this. Please let us know if you'd like to switch. We'll handle it with your mortgage company. And it's a pretty, seamless process.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, well, Brett, you're welcome to hang around, and you're going to hear a lot about people's crawl spaces and builds. I think you probably have had enough of us for a while. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. And
absolutely, thank you all.
I'll make sure that that you'll get a recording of this as well. I'll put Brett's information. And thank you, and thank you. We appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you all. Have a good one.
Thanks,
Have a
Brett.
good night, Brett.
Thank you.
So I hope that was informative for everybody. Brett came highly recommended by a number of members of this group, as well as other people. So that was really terrific. Next month, just a sneak peek, we are having a home inspector that is an independent home inspector is going to be coming to talk to everybody about what he's doing. He just did the Nuts house, Sandy and Brian's house today. He's done a whole bunch. He's going to come and talk about doing pre-inspections during your build. And he also does for people who have been in a house for a while, before your warranty, your year warranty or whatever that is, he'll come in and he'll do the inspection on the home and give you a full report. He was at Sandy's house today for about 6 hours. So he'll be next month, and that's going to be on a Monday night. So I'll send everybody that information. So glad that everybody's here. I know it's been a really long meeting. I'm hoping everybody is good. Anybody moving in anytime soon that we need to, anybody getting close?
We finally, Ken Homes, they said they would give us a notification 30 days out. Well, they finally got our email and they said our walkthrough is December 8th. We move in the 15th.
Wow, that's terrific.
Yeah, we're ready, but we're kind of hoping to have been in November.
Yeah, well, yeah, but November, December is better than some of the some of the other things that have been going on.
Right.
Bill, what's yeah, and what?
Oh, I was just gonna
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just wondering how many people right now, is there quite a bit that are actually there, or is most people on your site, waiting to move in their build?
I think it's a combination. I know Ruth is living there already. Lori, are you living on property yet?
We're not living in the property yet. We are living in Leland, an apartment, but we also got our information from Kent. Our walkthrough is Friday and our move-in is the 3rd of November.
Wow.
Yay,
Congrats.
congratulations. Congratulations. That's wonderful. That's
Happy dance.
How long was your build?
I think they broke ground at the end of March.
Well, you were quicker than us because they cleared our lot in the middle of March. And they started, digging the footings in April. So 9 months.
Yep.
Wow. What's going on with you guys, Bill?
We're still set for about the middle of January. And I'm waiting to hear from the races because they're just, I guess, a couple of weeks ahead of us. So as soon as they start to be running down the street with their furniture, I'm going to start packing.
Yeah, we've been trying to pin them down on a date. According to the Builder Trend Gantt charts, we're still closing by mid-December, but the reality is they won't be able to pin down a date until the cabinets arrive. There's been a cabinet installation.
Yeah.
So we're planning for to move in January. So we think worst case it'll be middle of January, even though the schedule says mid-December.
Okay. Yeah, they have us scheduled for cabinets to start, I think, next week. So we're probably not that far behind you.
No, because I think our cabinets are scheduled for next week as well.
Oh, okay.
Then maybe they're doing them all at the same time. They've caught up.
Yeah.
That's really exciting. John and Patty, any updates on your trajectory?
No, nothing yet. He basically said like between Christmas and New Year's. So we're planning on after New Year's. We're not going to try and rush it. If it is done, we're not going to try and rush it. He wants us back down the 1st or 2nd week of December.
Well, and yeah, so I'm just going to just comment on that in a minute. Kristen, you guys, because you guys are on mute, tell us a little bit about what's going on with your build, who's building your house, what's going on?
Hey, Robin, Lloyd here. Kristen's in the kitchen.
Hey, Lloyd.
We're about 70% into the design process with Coastal Cypress. So we're working with Steve, going back and forth with, specking out the home. So we're still early in the game as far as, before we even go into contract. So it's going slow. I mean, we've had a few Zoom meetings, but there's still a lot of work to be done. So I don't know when we'll go into contract. Right now we're visiting different home showcase, like Ferguson's, one of the places that Coastal Cypress chooses for like their plumbing and that sort of thing. So we're visiting those just to get an idea on what the budget will look like and stuff. So yeah, that's where we're at for now.
Okay, so you're gonna, hey, yeah, I see little heads poking in. So Marvels, when is your expected or your hoped for date?
Well, we're going down next week, so if anyone needs any pictures taken, you can let us know. We have our electrical walkthrough next week, picking out our lighting, and we're just going to go meet with the appliance people to see if we can get some stackables and pick out a couple appliances that's not included. And we're hoping, I think originally it was going to be like May, June. Now they're saying March, April. So they're ahead of schedule.
Good.
So.
Okay, awesome. So Rocco and Nicole, what's going on with you guys?
What do we have?
Foundation's done finally.
Yeah.
And well, not finally. I mean, it went quick. Once we started, it all went quick. Within a month, we cleared, dug, footings, foundation, and everything, and just they're doing the floor, the subfloor, because we're doing a crawl space, so we're doing the subfloor starts the end of this week, and then framing, and we're down for the POA meeting the week of the 10th, and we're going to do our framing walkthrough.
Oh, so super cool. So just to throw it out there, you just mentioned the POA meeting. So for those who are going to be coming, I'm just sorry, just for the POA meeting, that the Friday night, so Saturday night, so the meeting is on the 10th. On the 9th, the community, Doug throws a party on Friday night for all of us from Friends Becoming Neighbors. We're going to do some kind of a progressive party dinner thing going on. So there'll be, one place will be for drinks, and then we're going to do another house. So people who are there, who are part of our group or who were part of the group and have now moved in, are opening up their homes so that we can all go hopping from one place to the other. So just so if you're coming down that Friday night, just stay tuned, and we'll let you know where everybody is going to be landing. You had a question about the POA.
I was going to ask Rocco, was it your choice to do it on a foundation? Crawl space?
Yeah, we live on a slab now, and we from the get-go we wanted a crawl space.
We did the same.
Now, are you going to encapsulate it?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, so they're encapsulating it. They put a dehumidifier in. And it's completely sealed. It's all spray foamed.
Oh, that's good.
And, and they're doing it actually. One of the biggest issues that you find with the crawl space that we're told is that the house ends up sitting even higher off above the grade. So what he figured a way to do, our builder figured out a way to do was, it's a crawl space and it's a normal 3-foot crawl space, but he was able to sink all of the supports down. So it's actually, we're saving like 6 to 8 inches of height by the way he's doing some of the how he's connecting the subfloor to the foundation. I don't know how he's doing it, but
well, that's good, because I used to do building, and it's one of my trades, and encapsulation on the East Coast, they really never heard of it, and it's a lifesaver, because you get mold and everything because put all the ductwork underneath. And but that's great, they're doing that for you.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So a couple of things that I wanted to bring up, and Ruth and I are working on a project that through Bragg, So many people have have had so many different questions, and I'm gonna put some questions out to you guys to and to everybody else who's within the recording about there seems to be a disconnect for some of the people who were coming into the community who either purchased their lot or purchased their home through a broker or directly through the builder about
Yes,
getting
yeah.
information and all this kind of stuff. So one of the big things and with what I do for Bragg is communication. I'm on the communications committee, and I'm finding that a lot of the problems and I've heard from so many different people, and Ruth and I have talked about this on and on and on for the last year and a half, is usually because we don't have the information and it's too difficult to get the information. So she and I have made it for a couple of different things, and I'm going to let her talk about some of the cool, fun things that we've been doing that we just started. And I'm going to ask all of you to, if you want to send me an email with some information, how you found out about Bragg, what you wish you would know, not Bragg, about Friends Becoming Neighbors, what you wish you had known when you first started, what you would have liked to have known, the things that are in the newsletter, for example, how to get your keys and those types of things. We're going to include that as well. But I just want to get some feedback from you guys that you would like to share with potential new members and new people coming into the community, so that people are up to speed a lot faster, so that they know about Friends Becoming Neighbors. Doug is allowing me to introduce it at the POA meeting this year, so that any new people who are going to be there who don't know about it will be able to introduce ourselves. But Ruth, I'm going to let you introduce the new service that Friends Becoming Neighbors is offering to everybody who is here.
Well, one of the things that we wish we'd had an opportunity to do is kind of have pictures and things. And it's one thing to get written updates from the builder periodically, but we didn't get as many as what we would like. And so that was a little disappointing for us. So one of the services that I've been doing for Nina's moving in next door to me. And so one of the things that I wanted to do for her was kind of make her life easier by going and taking pictures regularly. And so that way she has more knowledge of what's going on. Obviously, I don't know what the builder's schedules are or anything like that, but if I can provide pictures for her, then that gives her some encouragement. And at least I think so, right, Nina?
She's on mute.
Okay,
She
not
is.
sure she's still there.
You have been a godsend to us.
Well,
We would be
it's just
lost
one of those.
without you.
It's one of those things that I think it makes a big difference if you can see, and particularly for people that are building from a distance. And we were in Pennsylvania, State College, Pennsylvania. And so it wasn't like we could pop down here. Now, I know a lot of people, or I don't say a lot, but some people, have already moved down to the Wilmington area, and they can pop over to the community and see what's going on with their build. So for them, that's great. But for the folks that are at a distance, myself and another individual that lives in the neighborhood, Sandy Nutt, we have decided we'd like to offer our services to go take pictures for people of their homes, obviously with their permission, if you're interested, particularly people who live at a distance and are not necessarily getting as many pictures as they'd like from their builder. I know some builders are really, really good at it, others not so much. So, so that's just something that Sandy and I are going to offer to do for you, just like what I do for Nina. I know that Sandy Nutt's doing it, I think for the Southworths as well.
I was just gonna say, Ruth, yeah, Sandy has been awesome.
Yeah.
And Tim Burns has been filling in now and then too. Tim every now and then
Good.
goes by, and take some pictures. It's just been so helpful, and it keeps us at ease. You know, it was nice to see Sandy took pictures of our house this week being sided, which is a
Yes.
nice thing, you know, so
So,
it
and
has been very
hopefully,
nice.
yeah,
Thank you.
hopefully we're gonna get a bunch of people, because Sandy, I mean, Homer's been in my house more than I have. Sandy's dog.
Yeah.
She walks up into
Oh my
every
God.
picture has Homer and is in the picture. And hopefully we're gonna get another, team of other people as well. So, we'll ask him. So, I think this is going to be very valuable, because you could, the builder is going to send you pictures of the things that they may think that you want. But like you said, you had said to me, Ruth, that Nina wanted to know how many can lights do I have in that one room? I totally forgot. You're able to go, your guys are there. So how would people get a hold of you, and what would you need to know?
Well, certainly the address of the home. If there's anything in particular that you're, looking for, and you can reach me two different ways. One phone number is 814-312-3211. So you can text me and just say, hey, would you mind, popping by my house and, taking a few shots? Or you can send me an email, and it's WOOFIE Bracken@gmail.com. So Woofie, because we have a dog. And so Woofie Bracken@gmail.com. And if we can be a help and encourage you a little bit, because it's a process. This is the first time we've ever done a new build. And so any encouragement we can give you, Sandy and I would love to do it.
Thank you very much.
What's the phone number again?
814-312-3211, Pennsylvania number.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
Sandy's been taking pictures for us, and it's nice getting the surprise when we get the pictures from Sandy, and then a day later, the builder tells us, "Oh, I started doing this."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's certainly, and for those who are going down, so sometimes we're on different schedules. Just let everybody know that you're there, and we're happy to do something. So, Michael, what did you do when we were down in October, early October?
Well, I don't get toys that much anymore, but Robin bought me a big boy toy a number of months back. She bought me a drone. So I brought the drone down with me. We didn't have a ton of time, but I spent a morning, part of an afternoon, taking some drone video, not just of our own house, but a couple of other folks that were in need of some drone video, including the Race's house. That was really horrible drone video. It was good practice for me. Really good practice.
You're welcome to practice at our house anytime, Michael.
But I like the email that I got from you, Nadine. You said, "Yeah, I didn't know I had a vent on that side of the house up on the roof." So I have the drone. I'll be bringing it back down, and you get a very interesting or different perspective from just standing in front of your house, taking a photo from 5 feet above the ground.
Yeah.
Because I'm able to, with the drone, I go up and over the house, the back of the house, the side of the house, etc. So if anybody wants a little drone video, if I have the time when I'm down there the next time, just send a little text or email to Robin, and I guess Robin will add you to my list.
We'll put you on this. Yeah,
Rocco, wait, by that time, hey Rocco.
Yeah.
You guys, when we were there, you guys just had the foundation. So it really wasn't much of a video shot, cement.
I'm all like to see ya.
The next time we go down, I think you're going to have some framing up, right?
Yeah, they're telling us we're going down for the POA, and he's telling me it'll be full house will be framed, and we'll be able to do the whole framing walkthrough. So.
It's very exciting. I could tell you that when Robin and I saw our stuff going up step by step, first the foundation, and then the next step, and the next, and the next. And now you can see the photo behind Robin where we actually have some stonework on the facade of the house, which is, so it gets very exciting. And the drone video gets more dramatic when you start to see the house come together.
Let me know when you can start taking the drone into the rooms and through down the hallway.
He just,
I thought about that, but no, that's not gonna happen.
yeah, his biggest fear actually, Randy, was it drowning out, in the back. He didn't want to go too far back. So we're working on teaching him how to, doing better things.
Yeah, I noticed he didn't get too close to the river.
Yeah, we're trying to keep him away from that. But definitely, and this is one of the amazing things about this group and about what's happened here is the support, and it's just been amazing and incredible. We are the only community in the area that has a group like ours, for a number of reasons. And every time I speak to a new person or somebody who just bought their lot and is a couple of years out, because I get phone calls all the time. They're like, oh my God, this is amazing because, we're going to know so much and there's so much to do. So I'm proud of all of us and what we've created, this community that we've created here. For those who are lucky enough to be there already, and Ruth, you're living the life, you're doing what you're doing, and you're still here. And and just we're so grateful that you're still involved and that you're looking, and you and I are working on this project. So basically the conversation with Doug was that there's no information for anybody new coming into the community, whether it's from the sales team, whether it's, the newsletter, the owner's portal are all fine. But when people are purchasing outside the sales department, and this was the discussion I had with Doug, how many people here, just with a raise of hand, didn't purchase anything from their house through the sales office?
Well, we did though, right, Matt?
Yeah, we learned everything here.
Purchase anything?
We purchased originally, we put a deposit down through the sales office, but then found a private lot. So we didn't get the packet, we didn't get any of that, we didn't get the whole new sales office spiel.
Yeah.
We weren't at that stage yet. We just did the initial deposit, which we got back. But everything we learned was through this group here.
Yep.
So we're trying to mitigate that a bit, and Doug has agreed to let me put together, with Ruth's help and with everybody else's help here, what I'm going to call a one sheet. One side of it is going to be the proprietary information about the utilities and the post office and getting your keys and all of that kind of stuff that we see in the newsletter. But something also that we can provide in the sales packet that comes from the sales office, and possibly get out to real estate agents, and if you still have relationships with your real estate agents, because it only works better for our community and the people coming into the community to know. I was looking at one of the Facebook groups the other day, and I think it was in like a Moving to Leland or something group, and they were talking about how, well, we looked at the bluffs, but like nothing was really, it didn't look like anything was going on. You don't seem to have any groups or activities or anything else. Now, not everybody knows what Team Reach is. Everyone says, oh, we have a Team Reach groups. Well, Team Reach is not like Spotify. It's a thing that we're using to control. So though all that kind of stuff is going to be more like a salesy type of thing, Doug said to me, well, everybody should be stopping by the sales office. Go in, we're really friendly, and they'll get information. Well, it's a sales office. If you already own the property, why would you go into the sales office? And we don't have a welcome center. So what we're trying to create maybe is sort of like a mobile or a printed welcome center type of sheet that would talk about what we're doing. So that's the input we're looking for, is what you wish you had known or that somebody had told you about, besides Friends Becoming Neighbors, because the sheet will be coming from this group. And just things as you're going through, that kind of information.
Hey, Robin, just something else too to add to that.
Yep.
Is no matter what happens when you purchase property, whether it be through a real estate agent or the sales office, you should get a copy of the HOA documents.
Yeah.
Which we never received. I mean, we bought through the sales office. We never got.
Really?
No,
Wow.
never got them.
Yeah, we didn't get that either.
Nope.
So I'm wondering.
We got everything else with Matt. That was it.
So
Matt sent it to us.
I'm wondering, so Michael, we were going on, it'll be 3 years in May that we did. I'm wondering if they stopped printing them because they've been changing them, because we got it when we purchased our property, they went over that all those covenants and stuff with us before we.
Right.
Yep.
When we purchased our property, we sat down with Matt in the sales office, and before we even signed anything, he wanted us to read through, the document, which is pretty big. And we did, we read through it, we skimmed through it, but at least we were somewhat familiar with the fact that there was a document, and there wasn't anything that we found in there that was going to stop us from purchasing.
Right.
But it was good that we at least had the opportunity to just go through it, understand that it's there, and if we wanted to go back and learn more, at least we had it and we can learn more.
Yeah,
I think most people don't even know it exists.
Nope, we never got any of that.
So
I've never seen it in hard copy anywhere. Know that it exists, and we were well aware of what we had access to on the portal as soon as we became property owners.
Right.
But I've never seen it printed. It's never been handed to us. We have access to it.
And that's definitely something that I'm going to bring up at, we have a brag meeting, because, like, for example, if you wanted to I'm going to use it, like, for example, of raising chickens. If you decided you wanted to raise chickens and you didn't see Randy, stop laughing. But if that was important to you, and now you buy the property and you never saw the covenants, now you move into a property and you're finding out, look, the brouhaha about the sheds. I mean, do you remember the yelling that went on at this group about the sheds, and how everybody was all furious, and we were battling back and forth of when you bought the property, and if you could have a shed, if you want it, I can't have a shed. So that's a big deal. And if it's really important to you that you have a shed, then it's in the covenants that if you're buying now, you can't have a shed. So that's why, perhaps we need to bring it up that before somebody, but again, if you're buying privately through a private owner, the owner, it's kind of on the owner. But if we have that one sheet that says before you purchase the property, ask whoever you're speaking to about that property to see a copy, or to give you access to a copy of the most up-to-date rules and covenants.
Yeah, ours was weird because our property was pre-owned by somebody else, but Matt really handled the transaction for us. So, it wasn't through the office, but it was kind of through the office. You know what I mean?
But we didn't get that done.
But we didn't get any of that.
Until we asked. We emailed to.
So that's something that I think is a disconnect that's kind of important, because there's a lot of things there that seem to be a problem, an aftermarket problem, when people move in and things start happening. I'm finding that there's interesting information, because a number of people are purchasing properties, like adjacent properties, after they move in. They decide that they want to purchase the lot next to them. So I've been getting questions, could you find out what we can do with that property? So Michael and I marched in to speak to Pat and said, get some questions about some of this stuff. Well, it's very interesting, because unless you just really quick, unless you blend those two properties and you go and you have a new survey done, you cannot put anything structured on that piece of property unless it is attached to your house.
Right.
Well, here's the other thing that you're missing. If you buy the empty lot next to you and you don't merge your properties, and that stands alone as a separate property, the only thing, or the first thing you have to do on that house is, on that property, is to build a house. So you can't purchase the property next door and say, well, I'm just going to put my shed over there. It doesn't fly that way. They said no. If you merge the property, then you can put a shed if you are approved for a shed on your property. But or what she said, what Pat also told us, is that you have to really work it into your design. If you're purchasing a property now and you're not covered under some previous covenant, you can have an attached shed to your house. And so it might just be a separate space, that you use, but that requires a whole design. That's not something you just kind of throw up. You know, it has
Yeah,
to
you
be
have
part
to-
of your house.
You have to resurvey because it changes your easements, it changes everything, your setbacks, everything changes, you know, we have easements and setbacks, side property to side property, which get changed.
Right. Also,
Yeah,
Rocco, also on the back of your property.
Yeah.
There's an
Oh,
easement
yeah.
on the back of my property.
Absolutely. Yep.
Right.
Not that
And
I'm
then
going
also
back there.
what
So
we
Mike-
did that people don't always know that they can do, we had our property resurveyed. So when we originally bought our property, it was one of the first properties. It was an old you know, it was sold, I think, years and years ago.
2007.
Yeah, it was. So that's when the wetland survey and all the surveys were done. So we paid and had it resurveyed. And it changed significantly. You have to file it and everything, but it really changed. It gave us different building envelope.
So there's a
So
lot of
it's always an option.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's going to go perfectly into the conversation about from next month's meeting. And that's going to be on Monday, the 13th. And that's going to be with the building inspector, the home inspector. He explained to me the difference. And one of the things he said about North Carolina that we all need to know is that it's in New York State. We have the lemon law. So, you know, if the buyers are protected. North Carolina is a caveat emptor state. So they don't have that lemon law. So you are responsible to know everything that's going on because there is no law and there's no greater body over you protecting you from what it is that you're purchasing. So saying, oh, I didn't know that was on my house, or I didn't know that I needed to have that in North Carolina is not accepted. So he gave me a real lecture about knowing what's going on and the importance of, you know, what he does. So he's going to come on and talk about, you know, the types of things that he does. And then we'll get, you know, an opinion. He's done a lot of the houses in the Bluffs, but he does Compass Point. He does, you know, all these different, he does pre, and then also one of the services he does is like when your house is like a year old, right before whatever warranty, that your builder's warranty, he'll come in and do an inspection. He goes in the crawl space, he does all that kind of stuff so that this way, if anything needs to be fixed while the house is still under warranty. So between insurance, so we haven't even moved in yet, but between between insurance and, you know, and doing inspections and all that, but it's up to us. You know, it's a new area of, you know, of the country that we're living with new and different things. And the more we know, the better. And the more that we all learn, the better it'll be for everybody. So, you know, Ruth was wonderful about writing me a whole thing about what she wished she had known about the Bluffs and where to get things and how to get, you know, so it shouldn't be so hard for everybody. So anything that you feel that really should be part of this document, Doug has agreed to send it out with the minutes of the meeting, of the POA meeting. What he also explained is that if you purchase, like what Rocco did, so if you purchase the property in, let's say, March, the sales office has absolutely no contact with you, no conversation, no knowledge that you even are breathing their air, because the POA fees were paid by the person that sold you the property. So there is no contact. They don't know, you know, they get that the deed had changed hands, but there's no interaction there unless you go in and say, hi, my name is, you know, Rocco Mazzai, and I bought this property and I'm here, and, you know, tell me what I need to know. Some people, if they're building from far away or they haven't done anything yet, they don't know. So the first contact that you're going to have with them is going to be the following January when they send out the email saying you now owe the dues. So Doug has agreed to put this sheet in that hard mailing so that this way anybody that hasn't had any contact yet at least knows we exist. They can come on, you know, like what Lloyd's doing and, you know, all that kind of stuff, that this way, you know, we're here. And like, you know, like many of you found information here where we can help people, or at least they can come and ask questions.
Hey, Robin, I don't know if Mike knows this. If you buy the adjacent property and you were talking about blending them, is there a time limit on which you have to build or start developing that adjacent property?
I don't think so. We don't have, is there such a time limit in the Bluffs? I don't
No,
think so.
there is no time limit in the Bluffs. I know that in the river, in River Bluffs, you have a year, right? That was a big deal. No, there is no time limit. But if you
Are you
don't,
sure?
I
Because
think there's a time limit around the lake.
around you know,
when we
River
bought our-
Gateway. Nina, did you think that? I don't think that there's any time. There have been people who've
when
owned.
we bought our lot in 2017, and one of the reasons we chose the Bluffs is because they gave you 6 years to start construction, and most of the other places we were looking at only gave you 2 years. And back then that was pre-COVID, and nobody ever thought they would be retiring, you know, within 2 years. But you know, we met the 6-year limit, but that definitely, we did get the covenants at the time because we had a salesperson from the sales office there, and she sent us electronically the whole covenant document. And I remember that it was 6 years spelled out. So if there's no limit anymore, you mean you can just buy a lot now and wait like indefinitely
Just
to
sit
build?
on it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna look into that. Ruth, remind me just to look into that. I don't remember seeing any kind. Bob, do you remember
Yeah, I
seeing
didn't
any
either.
kind of
We bought
limits on
in
that?
2008 and there was nothing.
Yeah, so,
Interesting.
We
yeah,
just bought ours in June and we were told 3 years. But
really?
I would have to
Oh,
I would have to revisit the contract again because it's been a while, but 3 years is sticks out for me.
And
Must
the
have
only
changed
other
over
thing,
time.
That's a lot of different information right there.
Yeah.
yeah, you see, and
But-
this
but
is a big
Changing things
deal.
as they grow, so I'm not surprised.
That's exactly it. They keep changing the rules.
Yeah.
As time goes on, the rules keep changing.
Right, and when we bought,
You could have a
they
shed, then
told
you
us
couldn't have a
nothing about
shed.
when we had to build.
Yeah.
Bought the
Yeah.
property and that was it.
Well, the people we bought from, I believe they bought it in 2007.
Wow.
And there was nothing, the lot was, vacant, obviously, so.
Well, I
there's
just
something,
assumed
guys.
they put in something since 2007, 2008, because 2017, it was definitely 6 years. And it stood out to me because everywhere else we were looking, it was like 2 years was maximum. And we weren't ready to do anything in 2 years.
Well, now we just heard 3 years, right?
Yeah, which
Yeah.
kind of makes sense, because if neighboring developments are starting to make it, a shorter amount of time, they're probably competing with that, So if River Bluffs is saying 2 years, now they're doing 3 years.
So it's not a bad thing. I mean, our street's half built right now, and you don't want one house on your street not being built for 10 years and everybody's set with everything, and then all of a sudden you have to start having construction.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
I see the point.
it seems to me that there's a lot. I'm opening up the covenants as we speak and seeing where.
So Robin,
Yep.
there was something in the covenants as I was looking through it. I think about a week or so back, I opened it up just to scan through because we were talking about this.
Mhm.
And I do remember one clause, I'm pretty sure it's in there, that says you have 12 months once you start building, you have 12 months to complete your construction, which I think actually is kind of funny, considering that a lot of homes are delayed.
The builders.
Yeah.
Guess we're in trouble.
I wish they would enforce that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was in there.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking to see if there was something here. If anybody, single family, I don't ever remember seeing a timeline, but that doesn't mean that
I don't remember seeing it.
Well, remember, maybe they took it out because back in 2017, there were like only 20 houses built when we bought our
Right.
lot. I mean, and it was literally like a dead zone. Like, I think we met probably everybody who lived there because they were all like converged in one place. So maybe as it got more filled in, there was less need for them to like restrict people because they wanted to kind of build up the community so that new people coming in would see more houses were there. And maybe they did away with it, but I can't explain why somebody else would say now it's 3 years. I honestly, I remember the 6 years stands out.
Yeah,
All right, so wait, so
who,
the other
who
thing
told
to
you,
remember,
sorry, Chris, hold
Robin,
on. Kristen, Lloyd, who told you 3 years? Who were you working with?
That was Jordan from the sales
Jordan,
office.
okay.
Yeah, but like I said, I'm gonna have to revisit the contract, but 3 years sticks out for us, because that's one of the things that, you know, we were contemplating about whether we should buy the lot and if 3 years was enough time, so.
Where are you building?
What street?
Yes.
Sour Grape.
Okay.
so you guys, you have to remember that parts of the community, there were not even any roads. So for
Right.
instance, with Robin and I, we would have had a pass anyway, because for 2 years, you couldn't even get to where we're building. Now, of course, it's all developed and it's fine. And if you look at the other side of the community, first of all, we're not even allowed to go on the other side because they're building roads there. Why would you go there? But if you were to buy a property all the way on the other side in one of these undeveloped areas, you can't even get there for another year. Your builder couldn't even do it for maybe 2 years. So,
Well, but the races and the Shanahans couldn't either because you were after us. Your division
Right.
was after our division, but I think your roads were there before ours were.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, the roads were built kind of out of sequence.
not where the Shanahans are, though. I don't think so, Robin. I think the road stopped right by Bill Shanahan. Bill, you still on?
Yeah, well, this whole thing with the time of how long it took to build, yeah, that was one of the things that struck us about not liking about River Bluffs was that you know, that clock was was running pretty fast and very tight. We didn't think at that time we'd be willing to build in that short of an interval. But I have to go back and look at the Bluffs now again. I could swear I saw something in there about a time limit on lots around the lake. So if I think that's all Rivergate, right? Because there are different covenants in there. The HOA dues are higher there because it includes lawn maintenance. So the rules are a little different.
Well, Patty and John are building around there. Did you? But you guys bought from a real estate agent, didn't you?
We bought from somebody owned the property before us, very similar to Rocco. I believe it was 2016, right? 17. But I think what happened was the original owner something must have happened, and then there was the next owner had the same like half last name hyphenated, so maybe it went to a child and then they sold it. So, but it was a while ago when they did it. But we were ready to build. We wanted to build right away, so we had to find a lot that was ready to go and available. But like what happened with Rocco, we didn't. I guess because we bought from someone else, we had a realtor help us. So half with the realtor, half with Matt, but we didn't get any information.
That was the same thing, half realtor, half Matt, yep.
Yeah, we didn't get anything. I didn't know there was an orders portal till right before the last meeting. All of a sudden we looked on there. I said to John, what is that owner's portal? I had no idea. And I clicked on it and I said, you are on this thing every day. How did you miss the owner's portal? So I clicked on it, I go, we have to make an account. And that's how we figured it out. Absolutely nothing. And we were in the office other times when we came down and talked to Mark.
Get anything with
And
them, did we?
Still had no idea. No idea.
And this is some of the problem. And you know, Doug doesn't.
Robin, how did we find you? How did we find you? We can't remember.
He found me.
I think I found you. I don't remember. So this is what I'm saying. So yeah, this is like I
don't remember. It could have been. Was it through AR?
It could have been. Yes, it was probably through AR. So that's you know, that's why just trying to remember how you found Jeff. I think I met you at the POA meeting last year.
No.
Oh, no.
what happened is the woman who was working at the front desk, you gave her your number and said, have him call me. That's how I got in contact with you. You happened to be talking to her at the front desk. And she said, oh, I met a guy by the name of Jeff Southworth. He's building out at the Bluffs. And you said, oh, make sure you
so Erica gave you, so at the hotel, Erica gave you my, okay. So
right.
I find you all eventually. Nadine, how did you guys find out about the group?
How'd you find that, Jimmy?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I noticed that there was an owner's portal before we even bought the lot.
Yes.
And started asking before we even had a reservation. So we kind of, you know,
that guy in the
ask a lot of questions
on the main road.
Yeah, but you know, sometimes and those, I think that's part of the problem is you don't know what you don't know until you don't know it. You know,
Exactly.
Ruth was commenting, there was so many things you didn't know.
Yeah, it was all haphazard. And some of the information was, I stopped at the gatehouse and asked about access in, and he says, oh, and here's the code for the beach house next time you're down, and oh, here's this, and here's a list of the utilities. Well, if I hadn't stopped and asked, then I don't know, I would have found out the information sooner or later. But then some of the other stuff is like just running into other people and having a conversation, and they say, oh, did you, I saw this on the owner's portal. It's like, well, what owner's portal? So it was very, very haphazard how we got our information.
So that's what we're trying to do, is to try to make it easier for the next group of people coming in.
Yeah.
To let people know that it exists. Yes, sir.
Hey, Rob, we actually bought our lot from Jordan and we got nothing. And this was last January.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, through the sales office, we bought it right there. And it's like, holy smokes, we didn't get anything, and the restrictions, anything, in no time frame. He told, now we're out on Flint Rock Road. So that's a little bit, it was brand new back there, but yeah, we didn't get any information.
It was radio silent with us, with Jordan, after we had settled on the lot, closed on the lot. We didn't hear anything for 4 months. And then all of a sudden my wife reached out and we found out that the bluff was taking like 2-3% once we closed. And I was like, what for? They haven't done anything for us. You know what I mean? So yeah, communication is poor with the sales office from our experience. In fact, we almost walked. If it wasn't for Steve at Coastal Cypress, we probably would have walked and just sold a lot, just because the communication was poor.
Was it a resale or was it a Bluffs owned lot?
It was a resale, but our realtor was Jordan and their realtor was Mark.
In our lot, we had an agent that went with us when we bought the lot, but found out the developer took 2 or 3%.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing this, and this is interesting for me, because this is not the first time somebody mentioned this to me about percentages and getting paid on certain things. So if you're on the owner's portal and you go into Bluffs Real Estate, the Bluffs Real Estate they are real estate agents. So they are acting as a broker for somebody else. So for example, the lot next to us, they listed it with that with the Bluffs as their broker. Now, I'm under the impression that the seller usually pays, right? The seller in normal real estate, the seller usually pays that percentage, not the person buying the property, right?
It's a commission, like they're a realtor.
The commission, right? But that's usually done by the seller, not the buyer.
But there are no sellers, though.
So something, there's a disconnect here somewhere. And well, we're glad that you decided to join our community, but there seems to be a lot of stuff and questions. So I'm going to bring these questions up, not specifically to the information, because this is obviously an issue about communication through the sales office, because Doug said, well, if they come into the sales office, we'll give them this and we'll give them that. Well, now I'm being told by you guys, I'm hearing it directly, that is not the case.
Right.
So Patty,
once we bought our lot, it was just silent.
Yeah, well, which is really interesting, because I know that when we purchased the lot, we left a deposit, and then if the title search took what, about 3 months, Michael? 2 months?
No. We visited in May. We closed on the property in July, but maybe the whole thing was like 6 weeks. It happened pretty quick. The purchasing of the property and dealing with a lawyer and all that stuff. Remember, we purchased it directly from the Bluffs.
Right.
It's not a private sale. And it went pretty quick, once we paid them the down payments and did all that other stuff. It went fast.
Yeah, ours was 3 weeks when we went through, and we did a private sale.
Yeah.
Same with us, Mike. It was very fast. Very fast.
It was just a matter of how long it took for the search and everything else. But it seems to me that this is one of the issues for so many people, is this radio silence and all this kind of stuff, and the lack of information. Pam, did you guys get covenants or any of that stuff when you bought?
We did back in 2008, but I mean,
yeah, it was irrelevant.
But we used to get a news, even when we bought, we were getting like a yearly newsletter every year. We got like a yearly update.
Yeah, well, that's the minutes of the POA. Basically that's the update, the POA.
Yeah, but it kind of right, and it gave us a little bit of what was going on. Where there was one house in there for probably 10 years after we bought.
Right.
We were.
But I think by law, the HOA, the POA needs to do that. They need to do a report once a year. This year, the POA meeting is going to be interesting, because you're going to be hearing some different voices. We have somebody from Bragg is going to be doing the finance report. So Doug is being a little bit more forthcoming. Yeah, where he's Bruce Teeling, who is a CFO for a company and has done this before. He's been working on that, because the big question seems to be a lot about the reserves, about everybody's concern. Everybody gets questions about the reserves and things like that. So we have been, through Bragg, we have been asking questions, and they've been doing things. So all of the stuff that everyone's been asking, we keep bringing back to Doug. He seems to be more amenable to giving us access to certain information. We're not going to see everything, but we're seeing more and we're hearing more. So Bragg seems to be working. I think he realizes that we're here for the betterment of everybody. So hopefully you're seeing more communication. You're hearing more about what's going on with the people are taking pictures of the clubhouse. Boy, that structure went up really fast.
It went up. Robin, even when we were there, from one day to the next, it was up.
Yeah, there was no, I mean, Ruth, are they, and my God, it's going up faster than, it's big.
Yeah, it's big. Robin, back to the thing with the Bragg.
Yes.
Maybe one of the things you can include in there, because I know Rocco and I have a hard time. Every time we get up to the gate, we never know what we're doing. Because I think, we're there every 2 months, so we kind of forget what we're doing by the time we go back. But we also get phone calls all the time of people trying to get into the gate.
Right, because you're okay. So it's
somehow our cell phone is linked to a code in the keypad. And it happens multiple times a week sometimes, where I get phone calls from people at the front gate trying to get in.
So Karen
Maybe
Coons
that could be
does as
included
well.
in the welcome packet.
Yeah, so Karen Coons has it. Evidently, you're real pop. She gets them at like 1 o'clock in the morning. But
I don't understand how that. I mean, you're keying in a 4-digit code. How does a 4-digit code call my 7-digit cell phone number or 9-digit cell phone number?
Because your code, it's a long.
They need to fix it.
Well, okay.
They need to change something.
So the reason that's happening is because the person, whoever's doing that, is not putting the hashtag first. So they're dialing the number with the hashtag after, and that those 3 digits are connected to your cell phone.
Right. How do I disconnect? I need a way to disconnect that.
Well, no, I just
No, because 3 numbers, somebody typing 3 numbers should not call my phone.
It's not because they're putting in, Ruth is laughing. So because they're putting in, because if you have guests and you're not home, they have access. You can give them a 3-digit code so that they can get into the front gate to go to your house or to come in to see you or whatever. So eventually that's going to be fixed. Because there's no way. We keep telling everybody.
In the meantime, you need to go to the gatehouse, tell them to delete your cell phone number. I mean,
I mean, I'm going to take my cell phone.
Then tell them to delete it. Then you won't have that feature anymore.
Yeah,
I will in December. I'm thinking there's only a few hundred, there's 100 homes in there right now, and I'm getting a couple times a week. I'm getting a call.
Really?
There's 600 homes.
Is it the same person?
I don't know, because they don't answer. I can't talk to them, but I hear them. It's always somebody and I do the same thing because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm pushing buttons at that gate.
I feel like in the welcome
But you hear them
packet, there just
talking.
needs to be a clear explanation. It's written down so you can look it over again, like, oh, I have to do this first, or because we forget too. Every time we pull up, we're like,
I
oh
will
my God,
tell you,
this
I
is
was
upstairs
exactly
first.
where you were. Well, my biggest problem is because we didn't do a fob or anything, because we weren't, we were 2 years out or 2.5 years out.
Yeah.
But like Nicole, my arms are like little dinosaur arms, and then we end up with these smaller cars that we rent. And now I'm opening the door, I'm hanging out the door, I'm trying to push the numbers. It's not a pleasant sight, but
we swear we're just pushing buttons in the gatehouse. The guard just feels bad for us and lets us in.
Yeah, it's hashtag and then your number. Hashtag then your number. The hashtag goes
Never
first.
fought with the keyboard because we got the fob and it works.
Yeah, or just get.
I'm more concerned with the people calling me.
No, absolutely. And this is going to be so just so that we talked about this before, that there's going to be a special fob that will work for the beach house and the clubhouse, the new clubhouse. So that's not going to be a code anymore. That's going to be an actual fob. The
only problem is going to be when guests come and they don't know what they're doing. They should probably have a sign like right
Should
there.
be a sign right there
Yeah.
with instructions.
Yeah.
Well, but that again, that's going to be on us as well. So maybe that's one of those things that we put out there that maybe I'll talk to Cynthia about putting in the newsletter next time, next newsletter, that if you are having guests, please, tell your guests this. I think, Ruth, are you finding that most people, after you live there for a while, what to tell your guests? Because remember, there's always somebody in the gatehouse up until what, like 5 o'clock?
Yeah. So yeah, usually it's not an issue now. We're pretty good. Kind of got the routine down.
So I think, that happens. That they're going to go through, but maybe that's one of the things that we'll put in to, like, we'll ask Cynthia to put into the newsletter or whatever, that for all of us who are new, that this is what you tell your guests and, and how to get in. So, I mean, these are all really great things. These are all, whatever issues, whatever, like, shoot them over, and we'll start with the basics and keep on adding to the list. But it only makes it better for all of us, and it helps the new people who are coming in, because at some point, believe it or not, by this time next year, you're going to be
We'll be in.
You'll be the one. You're going to be the Ruth. It's going to turn Yeah, we're going to turn you into a verb. You're going to be Ruth in it. So, all you guys that are coming in the end of this year, you're going to be the old time going, like seriously, Rocco, you can't figure out this. This is what you do at the gate. After a while, you're just going to know, and it's all going to be really super easy. So, and we're all going to Nina's house anyway. Right, Nina?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Robin, is there something that I don't know about? We're going to be in our house before the beginning of the year.
Abso-freaking-lutely. No. And it's really funny because, Jeff, do you guys know John and Patty? Because you're only one property apart from each other.
Oh,
Okay.
great.
That's awesome.
We're 716, Jeff.
Yeah, so we're at 3749. We're 714. Yeah, lot 714.
So,
Okay,
so
great.
literally, they're on the corner. There's the empty lot next to you, and then
and then
it's you.
And
So,
good.
So Michael and I were driving by, and like, oh my God, they have such great neighbors. I meant to tell. Oh my God, I can't wait.
That's great. That's great.
So you have, so there you are. You've now the power of FBN is like it's right there. And 2 more neighbors.
So now, when did you guys say you're going to be in?
Well, we were told between December 7th and December 21st.
Okay, great. That's great.
Sometime between then.
Okay. All right, great. Yeah. I know, Jeff. It's a spin of the wheel. We'll see when it happens.
Big question mark.
And you're just getting your cabinets or haven't got them yet?
Oh, we don't even have insulation and sheetrock yet.
Yeah, we don't have sheetrock
Oh my
either.
God. Well, hey, this is where I'm at. Now, I told you I was going to be move-in date December 15. We got cabinets, we got our granite, we got all the plumbing installed. They're going to be turning on our power this week, putting in the flooring.
Wow.
And I got a month, month and a half, month and, 5-6 weeks.
Yep.
And I'm going, I don't know why I'm not in earlier then.
Well, it's gonna be very exciting. And so is anybody going to be going down before the POA?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, when are you guys going?
I'm going down the middle of November.
Yeah, what is it, the 13th,
13th.
14th? You have a meeting on the 14th.
13th, 14th, 15th. Yeah, we have my 90-year-old mother on the waiting list of 2 senior apartments down there. And they called and said they have an apartment ready.
Oh, that's great.
We're going on a little road trip with my mom and her walker.
Oh,
we're going to go see the apartment and sign the paperwork and get all that.
That's great.
Oh,
Our mom's a very high functioning 90-year-old.
She is. She is.
So she'll be moving she'll be moving into her house before you're going to be moving into yours.
I know.
Take it around the same time, but not exactly the same time, because that's just one too many things, trying to get her packed and us packed. I think we're going to move first and then move her like 2 weeks later. I'll come back up to Maryland, help get her situated. I'll physically take her and have the movers move her stuff.
What part of Maryland?
That's great, though, that
Southern
you both
Maryland.
be in at the same time.
Yeah,
What's that?
I said that's great that you can be in around the same time.
Yeah, I know. It's worked out really. Everything is kind of fallen into place in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I know. We sold our
can't even-
house that same week that our granddaughter was born.
Our house went on the market.
Our house went on the market, sold to the first people who looked at it.
Full price.
For full price, non-contingent. They're letting us rent back until beginning of February if we need that long.
Nice.
It's just
great.
It's all like click. It's still just
I know. So I'm waiting for the shoe to
He's
drop.
waiting for
because I'm
something to go wrong.
Things don't normally go this smoothly. So something's going to happen, but
No,
it's okay.
it's all good.
Yes, we're all going to come and stay with you. That's
Okay.
Well, if we're lucky, the house will actually be closing the same weekend we're there for the POA meeting, and we'll just bring sleeping bags and we'll crash in our house.
There you go.
Yeah, it was funny, the day that the Vecchiolos moved in, took possession, we just by accident happened to have been there. And I called her to say, oh, we're here, you know, do you want us to look at anything? She said, we're here too. We lived an hour apart from each other here on Long Island, never met. And we were actually the first guests in their home. So they had like an air mattress on the floor. They were waiting for their, you know, we were standing at the island. We were drinking things out of coolers with bags of, you know, boxes of crackers.
We were drinking soda and eating Ritz crackers.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's class.
Yeah, but we
Good
were,
old days.
and they had literally, they drove down with a air mattress because their furniture hadn't come yet.
Yeah, I'll be shocked if it actually happens all that fast.
Well, you know, it's all good. We're all living vicariously through you guys who are, you know, on schedule, moving in, and that everything should just be, you know, great. Hopefully we'll see most of everybody at the POA meeting. If you haven't been to a POA meeting, the party the night before, they actually do a really nice job. There's usually some, you know, there's a band and music and a bar and really good food, and everybody hangs out.
We meet a lot of people. It was I remember the first year we went, Rob, when we were brand new owners, right? We had just closed on our property in July, and then we were back down there. We met a lot of people at that party, and then the next day at the POA meeting, and then we went out to lunch with a few couples, right? We all got together, and it was really a nice thing. It was great.
I just wish, the one thing that I wish is somehow we can get in the covenant that everybody needs to wear some type of a name tag all the time. So that this way, because, you know, you know people by face or you hear them by name, and sometimes the disconnect. And the really nice thing about that party the night before the POA meeting is that everybody's wearing name tags. So it's great. You walk around, you're like, oh my God, I know you. So it's all good. It's all good. But I know that it's getting late. I am so appreciative for all of you guys being here. Hopefully you learned some stuff about insurance. You know, if you need pictures of anything, Ruth and Sandy, and hopefully we'll drag Tim in because he's here twice a day anyway. You know, Tim is good for doing any of that stuff.
Is Tim in his house yet?
No.
Huh? No.
Tim's not in his house yet?
No, Tim is not in his house yet. We're hoping December. Also Sean and Tiffany are not in yet. They were supposed to have been in like 1 or 2 months ago. They're next door to the Fishers. And we're again hoping they were supposed to be in Thanksgiving. Now they're talking Christmas. So, you know, December is going to be a busy month at the Bluffs. It's going to be hopefully a busy month with everybody, you know, kind of getting in there. So there's a lot of people waiting for stuff. And then, you know, Nina will be first.
I hope I make it by the spring at this point.
Nah, you know what?
No.
I think that I was talking to somebody recently, and she basically just said she hired a mover and said, I need to be in by this date. I'm showing up with my truck on this date at this time. So everything needs to be done. I am moving in that day. Make sure it happens. And she said that it was like 2 weeks of crazy, and she moved in and things still weren't 100% completed, but that was the impetus that was necessary. So everybody's doing what they're doing. I just want to make sure that Nina has a floor.
Hey, her flooring came today delivered.
Yeah, we're supposed to be getting the flooring this week.
Wow, that's big. That's huge for you.
Anything that happens is huge for me at this point.
No, but that floor was a biggie. Well, everyone, October 24th, Nina's floor was finally delivered. So
yeah.
This is a good thing. So on that happy note, and that very exciting note, I am so, you know, again, happy for everybody's new news and builds and babies, and you know, all good things happening. And Jeff, did you get all of your recommendations written?
Yes, they did.
Good. Okay. It's all good. And if there's anything else that you guys need or any questions that you need answered, you know, shoot me an email. Please let Ruth and I know about things that you would like others to have or things that you would like to see on this one sheet so that we can create it. I have a meeting November 12th with management. So I'd like to be able to at least propose something to them so that we could have it for the POA meeting. And I'll throw it, we'll put together a draft and kind of send it out to everybody. Maybe Ruth and let everybody kind of make their comments on it before we present it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just ask one quick question?
Of
and
course.
You don't know, and I certainly am not ready for the answer yet, but when you're ready to move in, do you have to schedule that with somebody? Like let them know in advance? Do you have to like reserve, like you have to give them a heads up and wherever, or you just show up with your truck that day?
I think you just show up with your truck. When we talked to Pat Nicoletti, remember, Robin, she was almost like amazed at the number of moving trucks that were coming into the community on a weekly basis, as if she really didn't know any schedules. Do you agree, Rob? I don't think there is any.
No, we didn't.
I just wonder if everybody's moving in December, it's like a traffic jam of moving vans, it sounds like. So I guess they'll figure it out at the time.
Yeah, you'll get the keys from you know, Ted or Troy, and that's it. Just do your thing, move in.
But I think look down the road, you know, when just the volume, you know, and there may be days that are busier than other days. I guess it's not a big deal as long as there's not 3 people in a row all moving in on the
on the same place, yeah,
right,
in the same street.
But I mean, I can certainly find out. But I haven't heard anything about making, you know, letting anybody know.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so everybody have a great night. Thank you all for being here. And if you guys need anything, you know where to find us. And I'll see you in November. And if anybody needs any pictures, just, you know, contact Ruth and we'll try to get a couple more people and Michael and start scheduling with Michael. It's mshatskin at AOL. Start putting yourself on the schedule for drone photography in December. Yeah. And you too can see the vent on the top of your house.
There you go.
You too.
All of that, or the lack thereof.
Well, you never know. Listen, I saw on Facebook today there were bear prints behind somebody's house.
Oh, wow. Yeah, somebody said something about that on Facebook,
Yeah.
I think.
Yep, there was a bear print. So
yeah.
Well,
how
about this one on Flint Rock? There's a small pond, and we went last week. 3-foot alligator.
What's there?
Wow.
Off of Flint Rock, yeah. 3-foot alligator in a little pond.
Yep, I know. I mean, they are around. I don't think they really care about us. The bears are a little bit more interesting, or a little more. But they. Ruth, have you seen the bear yet?
No, but I've seen several things on Facebook, Living in the Bluffs, where people have said, "Oh yeah, I caught them," and it tends to be around the gatehouses where they're seeing, not in the development.
Well, especially because there's not a lot of activity. You know, there's not a lot of activity in the woods over there.
And especially because people are struggling with the code trying to get into the gate. You're
bear bait right there. You better figure this out fast. It's all good.
And Robin, you're worried about the snakes. What about the bear and the alligator?
Yeah, well, you know, and it's interesting because I was actually on the phone with a couple of people. They were out on the river kayaking when I called. I'm like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be out there enjoying the water. What are you answering the phone for? But the two of them were like, oh yeah, we were out here and we saw an alligator. And I'm like,
oh my God.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah, well, and Michael and I had this conversation because we have inflatable kayaks with pedals. So, you know, not 100% sure that it's going to be the best place, but we always know that we've got, you know, we can always just pull up to Nadine and Randy's spot and just run up the
Climb up the
invisible
hill.
stairs. We're going to climb up. Yes, they're going to climb up the hill.
Pedal, Robin, just pedal fast.
Pedal faster. We're just gonna have to pedal faster.
Beat it up.
It's all good.
It's about pedal too.
Yeah, no, it's well, and that's the thing is that are those they're like little penguin pedals underneath. So I have to do some research to find out whether those attract them or repel them because it's like gonna look. So we'll find out. We'll find out. We'll just it's.
I know what my bet's on.
Yeah, the bet's not on me.
Robin, just make sure you have marshmallows with you.
Yeah, they do like some marshmallows. It's all good.
They love marshmallows. Just take them and throw them. They'll go after them.
And it doesn't get stuck in there.
Is that true? Because I'm gonna do that.
You carry the marshmallows, they're gonna come to you.
No.
They're in your pocket.
It's all good. So you guys have a great night. Everyone stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you guys
Thank
really
you.
soon. Have a good night, guys.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.